So, welcome back. I hope you're not going to be mad at me for taking a little break. As anybody, I mean, I did have to pivot a little bit to kind of refresh myself because it was a little bit overwhelming. And so, also, I think for you guys, it was nice that I kind of did a little bit of different type of videos. Let me know how you like that. I plan to keep on mixing things a little bit so that you're not gonna get bored. That's one. I'm planning to do a lot of those following up. I don't know how they probably have a name, a specific name of where you kind of watch along, I guess. Some videos and you comment on it. I want to do those. I do want to do those in English as well, but I also am thinking of kind of revisiting my old videos and making them recreating them in Macedonian, so that those of you that are not really familiar with the English can understand, and because there are some nuances here and different things that I've discovered personally, things that kind of align the discoveries of the two Macedonian academics, Aristotle Tentov and Tome Boshevsky, that really established the method of deciphering of this middle text of the Rosetta Stone, and they did decipher that text as ancient Macedonian language, which is Slavian in nature, to everyone's surprise, kind of. But let me kind of dive in today's video, which will be a video about the 9th row of the middle text of the Rosetta Stone, which is kind of part of the mini-series, if you remember from my last video that I mentioned, mini-series where we're talking about the section, the Koine Greek section, which is Koine Greek text, the lowest portion of the Rosetta Stone, written in Koine Greek, but we're dealing with the section from the 14th till the 27th row of the Koine Greek text, and that kind of encompasses the 8th, 9th, and the 10th row, I believe. But as we go along, we'll kind of confirm whether that's true or not, because we may have some aspects of, let's say, the 11th or the 12th Macedonian rows that kind of are mentioned previously in the still 14th to the 27th verses of the Koine Greek text. Let me not overcomplicate this. So basically what we're going to do, I initially want to read that Koine Greek section from the 14th till the 27th verse in Koine Greek, translated in English, of course, unless you want me to read it in Greek. I'm just kidding. I can't do that. But and then I do want to go back really quickly and read the 8th Macedonian row, and also in English, so that it will be a kind of a refresher for you guys to see what was mentioned there in light of the Koine Greek section. And later we're going to dive into the 9th Macedonian row, where we do have some discoveries, for lack of a better term, and I'm going to read that to you, and then I'm not going to read the modern Macedonian version. I'll let that to my Macedonian brothers and sisters to do that by pausing this video, and then just read this section by yourselves, guys. But I will continue to kind of shed light on the parallels, which means I will go and what is this? That's the full 9th row, I think. Huh. I think, yeah, that's the full 9th row. Anyway, I'm going to continue and shed light to the parallels, which will first go and read the section from the Greek text, and then I'll go and I'll read the Macedonian parallel to that Greek section, if that makes sense. Really simple. I don't know how long this will last. I hope you're cozy. You got your water or coffee or whatever, and let's dive in. So let me first read the Greek section, which is the 14th and the between 14 and the 27th verses of the Greek Koine text of the Rosetta Stone. So we have those who were confined in prison and those who had been long under accusations, he, the Pharaoh, dismissed, and ordered that the tributes to the temples and the taxes paid to them yearly in coin and silver, as well as the accustomed portion to the gods from the vineyards and gardens, and the other places which belonged to the gods under his father, the Pharaoh's father, should continue throughout the region, and he ordered, with respect to the priests, that they should give no more towards the quota with which they were taxed for the first year than under his father. So things should continue without, just as they are. He released those of the sacred classes from the annual voyage to Alexandria. He ordered that the pressing for the navy should be carried on. Of the linen cloths manufactured in the temples for the king's use, he remitted 2 parts. And all other things he settled as in former times, in the accustomed order, taking care that the accustomed services should be performed to the gods as was fit. In the same way, he, the Pharaoh, dealt out justice to all, like the great Hermes, and he ordered that those who returned from taking arms, and of the others who plotted treason in the times of confusion, those who returned should remain upon their estates. And he, the Pharaoh, considered how the horse and foot forces and ships might be sent against invaders of Egypt by sea and land, incurring a great expense in silver and corn, that the temples and all inhabitants of Egypt, might be in safety. In other words, you pay the due that's due for you to pay the taxes, and we're going to use the taxes wisely for you to be safe. That's pretty much what we're saying there. And going against Lycopolis in the Bushirite, or Nome, which is a district in ancient Koine Greek, which had been taken and fortified for a siege, and largely provided with a supply of arms and all other ammunition, as if the impious persons congregated in it had been for a long time of a settled disaffection, and had been contriving many evils against the temples and the inhabitants of Egypt, having set down before it, he, the Pharaoh, surrounded it with mounds and ditches and walls of remarkable extent. And on the great rise of the Nile in the 8th year, flooding the plains as usual, he held back in many places, damming up the mouths of the rivers, having provided not a small quantity of materials for that purpose, and having set a guard upon them of horse and foot. In a short time he took the city by force, and destroyed all the impious persons in it, as Hermes and Horus, the son of Isis and of Osiris, worsted in the same place the former rebels. Okay, a lot has been said here, and I understand that, but try to keep it fresh in your mind, because let me just read it right off the bat, the English translation of the 8th Macedonian roll, so that if I read the Macedonian, ancient Macedonian one, you will just forget what has been said previously in the Greek section. So I don't want to confuse you guys. So let me start reading the 8th row of the Macedonian text, which is the middle text of the Rosetta Stone, deciphered by 2 Macedonian academics, Aristotle Tentov and Tome Boshevsky, as ancient Macedonian Slavian language. It was used. It was done so by using the scientific method, which gave reproducible results, and we're able to read external texts with this script outside of Egypt and in Egypt as well. They also claim that they read the two stones of the Canopus. I have a video where I read external texts from Macedonia and elsewhere, so that should say something about it. So let me not digress. This is the 8th row of the Macedonian text, in light of what has been said in the Greek section that I just read. So it goes, of the land year first, this he, the Pharaoh, spent or gave to Lower Egypt. A light or freedom was given to men. Our young bulls, glorious or mystical children of Mo, or the Great Mother, the warlike, were poured out as a dam besieged, which belonged to our heroes, the most bright names, or the pharaohs before, on the Setonians. So they were poured on the Setonians, or the followers of Seth, the Egyptians. Also, our living deities, or the Macedonians refer to themselves as living deities, or the sacred animals, like Yunta, which is young bulls. So, the living deities, which to the strong child of the Anat, or the Ananeta, or the Great Mother, to the Pharaoh, they pray in the temples. But the Setonians hammered, or harmed rather, the temple of Lower Egypt. My all-powerful children to all Lower Egypt were spent, or were sent to Lower Egypt's Nume, or Nome, or district. On a young moon, this is the Pharaoh speaking, on a young moon, I am inviting them, that it's the best to stay here. This is what the Pharaoh said. And if you remember, in the previous text, it was said that the Pharaoh is not going to harm those that returned, and they were against him, but they returned. They are allowed to stay in their estates. So this is pretty much saying the same thing. Moving on. Differently, those who are on the road of the god Anat, of the god of the Great Mother, the road of our lords, or the pharaohs before, that is the road of the underwear, or the linen cloths. The word for underwear here is jashtemo, which is gashti in Macedonian, even in modern Macedonian. That's weird. Which is the road of the underwear, or kind of like the Silk Road, but this is kind of like the linen cloth road of their sons, of the pharaohs before. We will remove the taxation of the living travelers to the best heavenly city of our moon god, which is Alexandria, the best heavenly city of our moon god, or of our Great Mother. That was Alexandria at that time. Where the children, monks, are praying. Monasi is the name for monks in the ancient Macedonian. Will be something new to them, because they used to pay or did this trip, but now they're not going to do that trip. And to the frogmen as well, or the frogmen were the Egyptians, Jobomeve in ancient Macedonian, which is Jabarive in modern Macedonian. And all the children that are praying to the heavenly Apis bull god, or young bull, to the pharaoh. Now, the voyage missing part. There's the voyage missing part here. Of the living children of the Great Mother, which is Mo, he took away. He released them off. Now, again, I gotta mention this. There was this guy called Petar Ilievsky, and he was brave enough, I gotta give him that, to kind of go public and do kind of, what he thought was a debunking of this work, of this great scientific work, And his biggest argument was that the Egyptian deities' names weren't really mentioned as direct as they were stated in Egyptian language or in Greek language. He thought that the Macedonian text, as so claimed by the Aristotle, Tentov, and Tomaszewski, it contained only the name of the gods in a descriptive fashion. In other words, if I have the god of the sowing, you would have the god of sowing, and so you wouldn't have a strictly name of it. And those were the parallels for the Egyptian gods as well. But that's not entirely true, because the word for Apis here, which was the bull god in Egyptian, was actually stated in ancient Macedonian as Apes. So what do we do now? Anyway, let's move on. That was the 8th row of the Macedonian text, and take a little break because we're about to embark on a uncharted territory, so to speak, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be real fun because you'll have something, you will see the fingerprints of the ancient Macedonian language in the modern Macedonian language, for sure. Okay, so the 9th row, let me just read the 9th row to you so you can hear the ancient Macedonian, how it sounded. And then I'll go and start with the comparison directly. I'm not going to read the whole 9th row in English. You can pause this video and read it by yourself. But I'm just going to go directly dive in. After I read in ancient Macedonian, I'm going to do the parallels. Okay. So we have, this is the previous one, this is a missing, before this there was a missing part, here's another Egyptian word in the ancient Macedonian language, which is Ammonio, or the Ammonians, or the followers of Ammon, the broader Egyptians. So we have Ammonio. Ze amo moi moje gospodar imo moi, i na se ki se dalo vojo na djeze na setonci, i na djeze na abi, i joj naše tjekanve, itaju našve žoni, na veveto no zenjeve, zeive dze našve, se kažemo ne na šmonje, i zeše moj vzenca o sečeji, i novena teca se, a našve pemo zeto movuju na djeze moj ižo omo na njobjevo i na avmove. De najvećini na veveton me gospodar na šivešte moluj. If you were a Macedonian, you would have a goosebump right now, because I did. If you didn't, you're not Macedonian. No, I'm kidding. But this will be a clear presentation of how the ancient Macedonian language evolved, the modern Macedonian language kind of evolved, and because it's interesting, and it has to do something with the order of reading things. Because remember, the ancient Macedonian is read from right to left. The modern Macedonian and most of modern languages are read from left to right. And there's a interesting thing there. So let me not kind of bore you guys, and I will continue now with presenting you the parallels of the 9th row and the section of the Greek text, which is between the 14th and the 27th verse in the Greek text. Okay, so we have, in Koine Greek section, we have, and ordered, the Pharaoh did, that the tributes to the temples and the taxes paid to them yearly in corn and silver, as well as the accustomed portions to the gods from the vineyards and gardens, and the other places which belong to the gods under his father, should continue throughout the region. So here, what it says is that he ordered the tributes to the temples and them yearly in corn and silver, as well as the accustomed portion of the gods and from the vineyards, places belong to the gods, and they should continue. So he's pretty much saying that the taxes that were given to him from the vineyards, from his lands, should continue as usual. So let's see what the Macedonian text has. It has Ze amo moi imonye gospodar imo. And here you can see the actual alphabet, but these letters are actually the modern counterpart of the syllables. So you build the syllables by, for example, if you see this symbol anywhere here, you would have to say that this is y, o, this is elongated o, so this will be, you kind of pinpoint it. So this is yo. If it rotates, this is you. If it rotates again clockwise, it's yeah, and so on and so forth. So if you want, you can actually see, mind you, this is a how do you say, cursive language, highly cursive language. Hence the mainstream has an issue reading it and determining it by, well, has an issue determining the grammar, because they have an issue when they try to break down the words which they read as a whole and teach as a whole, and they cannot break those in syllables. But so we have Ze amo moi imonye gospodar imo moi I na se ki se sei dalo vojo na djeze se ton si, and that's what it is. So ze amo moi imonye gospodar imo moi I na se ki sei dalo vojo na djeze na se ton si. Which means the Pharaoh took back their possessions owned by the Lord of my name, or of the Pharaoh's name, the Pharaoh before, and that every sowing was from every sowing was given to the leader of Lower Egypt of the Sidonians, which was the Pharaoh. So we got the parallel there, where the actual taxes from the vineyards, the fruits were continuously given to the Pharaoh. So let's continue. The next portion in Koine Greek section we have, and having set a guard upon them of horse and foot in a short time, he took the city by force and destroyed all the impious persons in it, as Hermes and Horus, the son of Isis and of Osiris, worsted in the same place the former rebels. Oh, look at the Macedonian portion, guys. It's going to be a mouthful, but it is what it is. I'm not going to go through here. That could take a little while, but remember, we're reading from right to left, again, right to left. And so we have the parallel of this section, the Koine Greek section, where it says that he took by force and destroyed all impious persons in the city, which is Lycopolis, the wolf city, city of the wolves, and so on and so forth. And so we have Ana Jeze Nabi Ijoi, and this Ijoi is actually a remnant, well, not remnant, but an echo of a modern, or rather an old church Slavonic word, Izjoi, which means who or koi. It's interesting. Ana Jeze Nabi Ijoi Nashe Chekanve, the ones wait, Chekanve, or the guard. Itayu nashve žoni, na veveton no zenjeve zeive dze nashve se kažemo ne na šemonje I ze še moj vzenca o se će I nve na teca se a nashve pemo ze to movoju na djeze moj ižo omon na njobjevo I na avmove, de najvećini na veveton me gospodar na šive šte molui. Sweet. Now, what did we say? I mean, it really makes little difference if I don't translate this in English. So, let me not digress again. And we have, and to Lower Egypt, the Pharaoh spent or gave those who waited, or the guard, to charge our knives, those with swords, belonging to master craftsmen, or the Pharaoh, who are the infantry, who, well, in literal, it says here, who are the legs of the pharaoh, which is the infantry, Nozenyeve, which is Nozere in modern Macedonian. Our bright sons, all of us to say no to these forests or these thorns. These forests is actually Shumonyeve, which is Shumive in modern Macedonian. And my glorious ones took and cut them down and withered them all. And this is a masterpiece. Well, it's demonic, but it's a masterpiece of paralleling how they took down the thorns, but at the same time, it was meant that how they cut down the thorns of the city, which was meant by also the thorns, the literal thorns, but also the people that were there like thorns, that were the rebels in the city. And our people sing together, the glorious ones strike on my lower Egypt, the one who is Amon, or God, or ruler of this realm, and of the wolfmen, who causes the Danaans to the master craftsmen, or to the Pharaoh, the lord of these temples, to pray. Oh boy. So, that's pretty much a parallel there. So, it says here how they destroy by force, and here is also saying how the infantry also was destroy the thorns, like literally and symbolically the thorns of the city, which were the rebels. Now, how did we locate Lycopolis? This is a little bit, let me kind of dwell on this a little bit. It's interesting because here we have, well, first let me mention how we discovered the word for infantry. For infantry we have naveveto no zenyeve. With this no zenyeve is actually meaning the legs, right, as I mentioned before. So the legs are infantrymen, which were zeivedze, which were our bright sun. This is bright, this is sons. These are our bright sons. And this is interesting because this kind of echoes also another thing in Alexander's army, which, remember, Alexander's army had a wedge formation for the cavalry, and the one that was leading the cavalry on that wedge was actually called Iliarch, or Il in ancient Macedonia is the sunlight, Ar is land, right? So which is mean the or tall. I'm sorry, Ar is what we say Gora, or mountain, which is, you know, Ararat, which the mountains are, which are a mountain and mountain. There were two mountains in Ararat, and so that's kind of the same word, Ili-ar, which means the high, the bright sun. And so here we have a kind of said that in a different way, which is Zeivedze, which is the bright sun as well. So it's kind of like the same culture, it emanates the same culture. All right, now, another word that we discovered is Shumoye, which is Shumive, or the thorns, or the forests that the Macedonians built. And this is interesting. This is kind of like ancient, I think it reminds me at least of kind of old church Slavonic, because it says Izeshe moivzenza osechei. It's kind of like that. Izeshe moivzenza. Another thing which is interesting is this moiv word. This word, if you remember, I had a video where I've presented a vase. It was a video about reading external texts, external text in this script, and I had a section there where I presented a vase with so the imagery there was a guy on a flute, and he was playing for a bunch of other dudes that were naked, and one of them was singing, and when we read from right to left, it was stated as aglosso edof tua moiv. So, and the sound, or my voice, is up to here. Moiv e moyov, or mine. And so here we have the same word that we found on the 6th century BC vase, written in same language but in different script, which the ancient Egyptians did as well, which is, I think it's kind of magnificent to discover that. Anyway, let's continue. Movoyu, Mavat in modern Macedonian. Ijo, again, koi or who, coming also echoing the Old Church Slavonic, Izjoj, na Njobjevo, na Podnebjevo, or this realm. And I believe many times the realm was mentioned in the ancient Greek text as well. Now, coming to the Lycopolis people, or people, the wolf people, here they're stated as avmove. Now the wolves or the dogs say af af, or they bark, say woof woof. In Macedonian is af. And so avmove, the ones who bark, is literal translation, but we would know them as the people of the wolf town, which were the wolfmen. If you're not Macedonian, if you didn't get goosebumps, you're definitely not Macedonian right now. I'm kidding, because I did. All right, I think that's pretty much it here. And yeah, we're done with the 9th row. It wasn't much, but it's interesting because we have now. Oh, again, Joni. Where is the oh, Joni? I forgot. I almost forgot. Probably the most interesting part. Joni is actually knives. How do I know that? Well, this language is read from right to left. And sometimes in modern Macedonians, there are fingerprints or echoes of this method of reading. What do I mean by that? There is a town in Macedonia called Negotino, and it's in Southern Republic of Macedonia, Southeast Republic of Macedonia, really close to the border of Greece. And in Negotino, it's reading from left to right now in modern times, of course. But if we take that word and if we read that word from right to left, we would get Ontigone, which means that town was either a place where the Antigonids, the dynasty of the Antigonids, came from, or it was just a town that got its name from the Antigonid dynasty, which is an ancient Macedonian dynasty. That's really interesting. Now applying that same method with this Joni, the modern Macedonian, which is read from, remember in modern Macedonian was read from, I'm trying to find a word here, but anyway, modern Macedonian, we're reading from left to right, but this is read from right to left. And so if we read this read from right to left, if we read it with the modern method, this will mean nosh, which is a knife in modern Macedonian. And in the plural here is applied by adding, of course, I at the very end of the ancient Macedonian, which is read from right to left in its original. But here we have Joni, which is nojovi, because Jon is noj, is knife. I hope that makes sense to you guys, but if you're Macedonian, you definitely understand that. And so that was really interesting to me to find this kind of fingerprints in our modern Macedonian language, fingerprints of the ancient language that pretty much Alexander spoke, and his descendants and his generals. Remember, his generals, they didn't speak Greek, and they were always rebelling when Alexander was speaking Greek. But remember, when Alexander was speaking Macedonian, that's recorded in ancient sources, it's always because he didn't want somebody else to understand what he was saying. So in that era, this language was the language, at least the Macedonians take the secrecy of the language pretty on a high level, on a high importance level, because that's how they could keep secrets. They could keep state secrets. top level secrets and nobody can understand. And so when I see a highly cursive language like this, which is the middle text of the Rosetta Stone, I kind of see it makes total sense for it to be hard to read, in a sense, because I imagine that the guy that was present with the one that was actually giving this order, and the guy that was a scribe that was writing down this language, he would have been the same guy that if he needed to read this language for somebody else to understand it out loud, he would have been there, because he would have the total context, because previously he would have been with the one that was directing how to write down the things that were written down. And so it makes perfect sense. Now down the road, of course, if Macedonian elite was to disappear, which it did, the same language would disappear. That's the downside of it. Now, if you have a language kind of like the phonetic language of the Greeks, it's pretty easy to read it. I mean, it's kind of like they're there. It's not cursive language, so it's clear to read, you know. This one, well, with a syllabic language or script, you can write a single thing in several different ways, right? You can use ligatures, you can use pictographs, or you can use symbols, only syllables, and things like that. So let me not bore you more. I hope you like this video. If you want to support, just spread the word, like the video, share if you want. And if you want to go even further, I'll link the online shop in the description so you can grab something up from the store. For example, something like this shirt, which just says Prime Manliness, Mojoil na Prv in ancient Macedonian, and you will get a nice emblem right there. Now, I know we didn't mention the cavalry or the horsemen here, but it is coming. And I'm going to give you a hint. It's called Javnave, the ones who are riding konje koji javat. That's the name of a cavalry. So, but it's coming. So I'm just gonna tease you a little bit. So you'll come back to watch the videos. Thanks for sticking around, and I'll see you in the next video. Sayonara.